now. We the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard. We're going into week 16. We got some critical playoff games coming up this week. Now, quick disclaimer before we start with our predictions. This is being recorded before the Tuesday night games of week 15. So we don't know the result of the Rams and Seahawks. We don't know the result of Washington and Philadelphia at the point of making these picks. There are also no betting lines, which is to be expected so far. At this point in time, the Seahawks-Rams game is kicking off in about 2 hours, but we're having to record this now, so we do not have that information, but we'll still try our best to pick all of week 16. So, Smokey, first of all, how are you doing?
Man, I'm okay. Not as good as usual because I usually am at least either tied with you or have a lead going into our show. But we really don't know the outcome as of yet. But you are ahead by 1 point at the moment. You have 8 to my 7.
I am so glad I got to talk you into picking the Falcons. That's that point. That's that point.
Yep, that's what puts you ahead.
Completely made up talk about team pride, but it worked.
Yeah. Exactly.
And got lucky too, but hopefully tonight will be good for me as well, because I still have points to catch up on. I'm still behind in the overall, no matter how the Tuesday night games go. So I'm gonna have to take some more risks. Couple more weeks to go, 3 more regular season weeks and the playoffs. So I have to make up some points there. Starting off Tuesday night, the aforementioned 49ers at the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, and it seems like one of these teams is actually trending up and one is trending down right now. The Titans started off the season with a great record. They were on fire, and the 49ers not so much. But as of right now, it looks like the 49ers are a playoff team, and the Titans not so much. You know, they had an ugly game to a struggling Steelers, as a matter of fact. And yeah, that team was just that game was just horrible all the way around. And the Niners look good against the Falcons. There's not much more you can say about it. They look like they belong in the playoffs. I'm not saying they're Super Bowl bound or anything, but they look like a good, formidable team that will go into the playoffs, if not into the second round of the playoffs. So I am taking the 49ers on the road.
This is an interesting one because I saw the odds earlier, and the Niners are actually 3-point favorites on the road, which is kind of a rarity, and they have a worse record, but the momentum really is on their side. I do agree with you on that. Now, we don't have word on Derrick Henry yet, and there's murmurs basically every week now whether he'll be able to come back or not. Now, both of these teams definitely are going to make the playoffs, more than likely. It seems like Tennessee kind of trending down, and this is one of the games where, even though I don't want to, of course, I want to pick the Niners, I have to pick whatever you don't, or I decided that that's what I'm going to do because it's a close enough game, so I'll pick Tennessee at home. Though, having seen the past few weeks, I don't necessarily believe in it all that much because George Kittle, Deebo Samuel are very, very hard to stop, and the Tennessee offense is not the same really in the long run without that running game for Derrick Henry to lean on. So I think the Niners should probably be favored, but it's a close enough game for me to pick Tennessee and hopefully make up another point on you, or hopefully not. I guess I don't even know. But honestly, I don't want anything more, and I don't even care about the seeding, 6th or 7th, whatever seed. I want nothing more than Dallas in the first round of the playoffs. That's all I want to see. I want the Niners to play at Dallas, because Dallas is in a slump too. Like, they're not right now. If they play, the Niners are a better team than Dallas, 100%. I want to go to Dallas and beat the Cowboys in the playoffs. That's all I want for the season, because we're playing with house money anyway. Actually, that's not all I want for we're playing with house money, or we're not supposed to make the playoffs halfway through. So I want to go to Dallas, beat them, and then go to like the Rams or the Cardinals, beat them as well, and then I'm fine. That's what I want. I want to beat the Cowboys and a division rival in the playoffs. We'll see when we get there, but I have the Titans for now. The Browns at the Packers.
Yeah, man, another ugly game. There was a ton of ugly games this week. But on the other side of the ball, the Packers and the Ravens had a thrilling, awesome, almost a shootout. I mean, that was a high-scoring game. It looked fun. It was fun to watch. But Yeah, Packers are who the Packers are because they have Aaron Rodgers, of course, and they have a few really good receiving options, whether you want to believe that or not. On the other side of the thing, it seems like the Browns have one superstar at this point, and it's not enough for him to actually get the job done because they need more offensive weapons. Nick Chubb can't win these games by himself. No running back. Well, I guess Derrick Henry has won games by himself. Some running backs can win games by themselves, but not if there is just nothing else to the offense. And there's not a defense that's holding them up at all. So, and that's actually kind of weird because earlier in the season, the defense was great, but I don't know, man. They are what they are. I think the Browns are going to finish last in this division, like I said they would. And the Packers are going to easily win this one at home.
Well, yeah, I mean, Antonio Freeman, Sterling Sharp, right there. There are some good players and receivers in Packers history. Now, if only there was a good receiving option currently on the roster, I mean, that would be crazy with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, by the way, the weekly MVP voting is up on my channel page. You can vote there for who you think should be the NFL MVP if the season ended today, which I think to most people is pretty much down to 3 names now, and then there's still the Jonathan Taylor crowd. But with how Tom Brady looked last week, it's pretty close. We'll talk about that though by the end of the show. But I just wanted to bring that up. I will take the Packers here as well. Now they just managed to win against the Ravens in a game that should not have been close, but they gave up points in garbage time, and it's already kind of a taste of what's coming in the playoffs. Because if this is even just the Ravens with Lamar Jackson or a better team than the Ravens in the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers could score 45, and his defense, his special team, is going to give up 46. That's a fact of life among death and taxes. That's what it's exactly been like the past 2 years in the NFC Championship game, and that's what's going to happen again because the roster is not good enough aside from quarterback, and I can already foresee it happening. So kind of a bit of foreshadowing there, but they managed to win it anyway. They're going to beat the Browns as well, I have no doubt. So Packers to win. We have the Colts at the Cardinals.
Well, this here is another game where if you just looked at the record, you would say, well, it's obvious that the Cardinals are going to win. But the Colts have completely turned their season around. It's between the Colts and the Dolphins as to who is the mid-season comeback of the year right now. And I think head-to-head, the Colts are actually better than the Dolphins at this point. And the Colts are going to the playoffs. I don't think there's any way around it at this point, unless they just fumble it somehow. But this team is amazing. Carson Wentz, yeah, he makes some bad plays here and there, and maybe Frank Reich doesn't trust him as much as he should, in my opinion. But Jonathan Taylor is an absolute beast that is going to run all over everybody. The Cards have a great record, but they don't look good. They just lost to the Lions. Now, you got to feel bad about yourself if you're a 10-win team this late in the season that lost to the Lions. It was horrible. I'm going to say that the Colts keep their momentum and the Cards keep their anti-momentum here. And the Colts are going to win this one in Phoenix.
2 corrections. I want to say they didn't just lose to the Lions. They got blown out by the Lions.
They did.
I guess Jared Goff knew how the Cardinals play, and then he knew how to beat the Cardinals as opposed to him knowing how to beat the 49ers.
Actually, I looked that up. Historically, he has owned the Cardinals like his entire career.
Yeah.
That one's actually true.
Maybe that one. Maybe there's a point to that because he blew him out. And the other point I want to make is I have no doubt that Frank Reich has more than enough trust in Carson Wentz. He drafted him, and then he traded for him with the next franchise. That's the quarterback. I'm pretty sure that's the quarterback he wants to run his offense. So no doubt there, and the chemistry is starting to click for the Colts. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals in this one. I think they'll recover. And I know the Colts are fantastic and they force a lot of fumbles. Cardinals don't turn the ball over as much, so they don't put it on the ground all that much. And I do trust in their dynamic offense to be. We know that this front 7 for the Colts is fantastic, but they're getting banged up. You had Darius Leonard is playing through injury. DeForest Buckner got banged up last week. And the rookies on the defensive line are going to, especially defensive end, Kwity Paye, I think, is going to have some trouble with Kyler Murray as well. I think there's a lot of mismatches. So I'm going to pick the Cardinals. Another disagreement. Hopefully I can make a point up on you. But I wouldn't even mind seeing the Colts win. I like the Colts. Giants at the Eagles.
Man, we still, at this point in time, have no idea what the Eagles are going to do this week. I don't think it matters. I think Jake Fromm is probably going to be getting his first official start, which actually he looked like the better of the two between him and Mike Glennon. I think Jake Fromm probably should have been starting all along. He actually looked decent, to my surprise. But the Eagles, I don't know. I don't know what their momentum is going to be, that's for sure. And, we haven't seen them play at this point in time in 2 weeks. So it could go either way. I mean, the Eagles are an overall better team, I would like to think. So I'm going to take the Eagles at home.
I kind of just want to pick the Giants now if Jake Fromm starts, just because you like to not believe in him, which you should, because obviously he's Georgia quarterback. I should be supporting him. But of course I'm doing no better because Jalen Hurts was technically with Alabama and I don't believe in him at all. But I do agree with what you said, whether it's Glennon or Fromm. Probably not proven enough to really put money on, so I will take the Eagles as just being a better team. The Giants are eliminated from playoff contention anyway, so why rush Daniel Jones back at this point? No point. So fire your coach, get someone in the building who doesn't strap tennis balls to cornerbacks' hands, and try to attack again next season, depending on what quarterback you want to use. For next season, but something to figure out over the offseason. I'll take the Eagles to win it because they still have playoff implications on the line. So, and this is a big one, by the way. The Eagles at Washington, which the result we don't know of it, is a huge playoff implications for the NFC. That is a huge spot for that last wild card race. With the Saints winning, any team could be 7-7, and they're going to be in the thick of things. So Philadelphia has to win at the Giants as well. Or at home against the Giants. Rams at the Vikings.
Yeah, that's another team that, as of this recording, we haven't seen their outcome this week. But we did see the Vikings' outcome. And that game against the Bears was horrible. I should have known not to put any faith in Matt Nagy to run a decent offense against a team that was giving up 30 points. And the same thing with the Bears. I mean, the Vikings, I guess I can't blame too much on the Vikings because they didn't need to score. They did not need to score. They put 2 touchdowns down and said, hey, we're going to kick our feet up. We don't need to because the Bears are not going to score anything in this game. And outside of a couple of field goals, that's all that happened. And so the Vikings didn't need to put a great offensive effort out there. But the Vikings are still a mediocre team. They're still probably going to end up 8-9 or 9-8 or somewhere in there. And the Rams are still an above average team, a playoff team. They're almost dead set for the playoffs at this point, I would think, unless something goes horribly wrong. I'm going to take the Rams on the road.
I'm not sure if there is a way for the Rams to mathematically... I guess somehow mathematically they could still not make the playoffs, but that would definitely entail them losing this game, losing to the Niners also in Week 18. Not really seeing that happen. I think they're going to make the playoffs, and also a bunch of other things would have to happen for that. And of course, you believed in the over strongly last week with the Vikings Bears. That was 44 points, which seemed very feasible. I agree with that, but that was a losing bet, unfortunately, as you mentioned, largely due to Chicago's incompetence to score points on offense, which we can probably chuck up to their head coach. And they are also officially eliminated, are the Chicago Bears, from playoff contention as of today. In this one, win or lose against Seattle, I'll take the Rams to win. They're a better team. Nothing more to say. They're better than Minnesota, so they'll win. The Bills at the Patriots.
Yeah, this is tough right here. It really is, because the Patriots are coming off of a pretty bad loss. They snatched the momentum right away from them. The Colts just had their number. They walked into a buzzsaw in that one. The Bills, on the other hand, got the win over the Panthers, but they did not look great doing it. I don't know. Josh Allen, definitely the regression came for him. At one point, I knew it was coming at the beginning of the season. Then at one point, I was like, maybe the regression is not coming for him. Maybe he can pull through. But no, the regression has gotten him. But the Bills are still winning games here and there. They're still a playoff team. This right here is tough, though. Are we going to see the Patriots of last week? Or are we going to see the Patriots of the 6 weeks before that? And I'm really torn. I guess I'll say this. You're probably picking the Patriots. I'm going to pick the Bills.
You are damn right I'm going to pick the Patriots because, yes, you're right. This is uncertain territory. We have no idea what team is going to come in, how. And in such cases, it's never wrong to trust that Bill Belichick will have the upper hand in terms of preparation. Plus, he generally has the upper hand in this division and has for 2 decades now. And until teams prove that they can reliably beat him, I'm not putting stock into it. So Buffalo, to me, continuing to trend down, and they have to be a little bit careful there because losing this game puts, first of all, the division pretty much out of reach, and they're not guaranteed a playoff spot by any means. They have to start winning some games because the AFC right now, the wildcard teams are 8-6. So there's no, like in the NFC, there's no team with 6-7 or 7-7 record currently making the playoffs. That doesn't happen in the AFC. Even Baltimore right now at 8-6 is out of the playoffs if we end it today. So Buffalo, they gonna have to pick themselves up later on, but I'm gonna say New England gets it done and clinches their spot. So I'm going with Mac Jones, who is a very good quarterback. Some might say he's getting pretty close to the level of Josh Allen as well. Maybe next season we'll be looking at that. Yeah, I mean, this season, honestly, it's not that, like, Josh Allen is not having a great season for his standards, and Mac Jones came on pretty strong, you know.
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, but passing 3 times in a game is not necessarily a Josh Allen act or a feat. You know?
If you win the game and you play for Belichick, if Josh Allen played for Belichick, he'd be passing 3 times a game if that means they win the game. Absolutely, because you're not arguing that. We'll see. Good rivalry coming up for the next few years. We have the Bucs at the Panthers.
Yeah, both of these teams are coming off of ugly games. Now, if you took both of these efforts that these 2 teams put forth last week and put them together, I would say the Panthers got this. Like, easily is going to win this game. But the fact is, that's not how Tom Brady's career goes, and that's not how a super team, although this is a super team, everybody's injured at this point. Like, all of the superstars, you know, not every one of them, that's hyperbole, but a lot of their superstars are injured. Mike Evans is injured. Chris Godwin is injured. Leonard Fournette is injured. So he's running out of options out there. He's going to have to go to some 3rd and 4th stringers, and are they going to cut it? Gronk, we saw what Gronk could do whenever the other superstars are taken out of the game. Gronk gets shut down because they could put whoever they want on Gronk and cover the other guys one-on-one easily. And some of them, not even one-on-one. Some of them, you leave them all out there in the field by themselves and they can't catch the ball for some reason. But that's fine with me. I like it. But I will take the Panthers on the road to beat, the Bucks. I'm sorry. I will take the Bucks on the road to beat the Panthers because they just should.
I really thought you were going to have some faith here in the Panthers, and then you just misspoke. Well, what Tom Brady is currently experiencing is called the Aaron Rodgers treatment. It's when you have like one decent receiver, and then you're playing with utter average for the rest of your offense. Now, he hasn't really seen much of that in New England or Tampa Bay, and we'll see how he handles it. Here's a quick historic fact for anyone whom it may concern. There was not a single defensive player that is currently in the NFL was in the league the last time that Tom Brady started a game and scored 0 points, which happened in the year 2006. Not a single presently active defensive player was in the league when that happened. So kind of a rare event, usually once in a career, not twice. But I do unfortunately have to agree with you and say that they're probably going to win. It's a safe pick. Though, of course, at the beginning of the season, I projected the Panthers rummage their division, go 5-1 within their division. That would entail them beating the Bucs as well. But if I knew Sam Darnold was starting, maybe I'll just, out of spite, pick the Panthers. But nothing sure there, and they didn't necessarily look great either. I think Tampa Bay is going to come back. They get it done. If not in the convincing way, but they'll probably win the game, so I'll take them. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Jets.
Oh, Tank Bowl right here. Yeah, the Jags are still horrible. They didn't even get that 2-game bump from losing Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer has cursed that team. I hope they can get some pieces on that offensive line next year and a good coach just to turn this team around, because I kind of want to see the Jags do good for some reason, but they're just so bad right now. they are, regardless. They are. I mean, even the Lions record, the Jags are the worst team in the NFL at this point. The Jets actually put up a really good effort last week, and for half of the game, they beat the stew out of the Dolphins there. They just didn't have the Jimmies and Joes to hold out and actually win it in the long run in the end, because their defense is horrible and you can run all over them with Duke Johnson of all people. I'm going to take the Jets at home because they're just a hair better than the Jags.
This is a real this is the tankiest tank ball of the season, because this is the number one pick on the line. Detroit seems to be winning games now, so it's up to these two. This is the number one pick. At the moment, Jacksonville is holding it, but I'm going to say they give it up. I think they go into New York, they win the game. It's Trevor Lawrence versus Zach Wilson, and both of them not having the greatest rookie season. Zach Wilson's probably been a little bit more convincing, at least in terms of his development, but I'm going to say you might as well flip a coin on this one. I think the 2-game bump or whatever, 1-game bump or any bump at all, it's just gonna come up a little bit delayed. Against the Jets, it's the perfect team to finally experience that bump against. I guess it's not going to get much weaker if they're going to have it, and then a lot of work to do for both teams during the offseason. I'm more optimistic about the Jets right now in terms of long-term future, but contrary to all of that, I'll say in the short term, Trevor Lawrence has the best game of his career so far, and he wins the game for the Jaguars. But I can totally see either pick being legitimate. We have the Lions at the Falcons.
This is not as sure of a thing as it was until before last week. I thought, yeah, we definitely got the Lions. No matter what happens at the 49ers, we definitely have the Lions, right? I don't know. They actually looked good, and the Falcons didn't. But overall, you gotta. I don't even know, because we've lost so many pieces on that offense, and Kyle Pitts hasn't developed yet, which you don't expect a tight end to develop that well in his first season. I guess he's actually a little above par for his rookie season being a tight end, but it is what it is. We don't have a lot of firepower. Russell Gage has become Matt Ryan's number one guy there. But I think I will still stick with the Falcons because logic says to pick the Falcons, and that's my team. So I guess I'll have pride like you told me to have last week.
I'll bring that up next time they play like the Bucks or something, and then see if you do it. I think Kyle Pitts is way ahead of the curve for sure. I mean, rookie tight ends don't succeed. Tight end is normally a 3-year position, biggest learning curve aside from quarterback in the NFL, and maybe corner. So he's got a good future, of course. He's the featured piece of the offense. He looks a lot like Julio Jones, and he's playing that role. Like, down to even the stats. Like, he gains yards, he makes catches, doesn't necessarily score an insane amount of touchdowns, which is very akin to what Julio Jones has been doing those past few years in Atlanta as well. But he'll develop. He'll be fine. Now, the game is a lot harder to pick than you think. I don't have any odds here. This is one of the games there's no betting line, at least the database that I'm looking at available right now. So it's not as easy to pick as you think, but I will go with Atlanta as well. I once, of course, picked the Lions. Thought this is going to be the one where they pulled a huge upset, and they didn't, and then they do it the next week against like an even bigger upset, so you really never know what this team is capable of, but it's the weakest roster in the league, so can't rely on them to necessarily be good for a long time. I'm glad they did against the Cardinals. Hope they scarred them for life, ruined their season, their entire confidence mentality down the drain, and the Cardinals don't win another game for the rest of the year. I would be very happy about that. And their job would be done, but I don't think they can chain 2 wins together. So Atlanta gets another one. By the way, the Falcons are kind of on the outside looking in now with playoffs, right? They probably have to win out if they want to have a chance at a spot.
Oh yeah.
But they're 6-8 now, and with the Saints winning, they have to definitely win out. So this is a must-win game for you. Chargers at the Texans.
Yeah, the Chargers look great. Herbert looks great. Herbert is doing what you said he would do. I don't know that he's winning the MVP this year, but he does look great, and he is above where a second-year quarterback historically should be. He looks good. And the Texans got a win, but it was over the worst team in the NFL. So how much credit do you give them there? But Chargers on the road. This is going to be an easy win.
Yep, absolutely agree with that. I said this to you after the Bucks game. I sent this message to you. If Justin Herbert wins the MVP this season, first thing he needs to mention in his acceptance speech is the Saints defense, because they destroyed both Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady this year, and they're like a mediocre team. Like the Saints are about as average as it gets, but both Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, they made look like rookies for some reason, and then they can't do it against like regular quarterbacks. But that would be a big help for Justin Herbert if that ends up happening. But no doubt they're going to win at Houston. Well, I shouldn't say no doubt. A lot of surprises happen, and it's a very close season. All things considered, a lot of things can happen, but Chargers win. They have to. Baltimore Ravens at the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, the Ravens proving that they can still put up relatively the same amount of points and the same offensive output without Lamar. We can throw Huntley in there and get the same amount of offensive production. You know, I really think Harbaugh is maybe an offensive genius, you know. He's done some great things with the people he's had in there. No matter what style of quarterback he gets, he seems to know how to utilize them. I don't know that people talk about Harbaugh enough as a quarterback whisperer or whatever you want to call it, but I think there's something going on there. I mean, this may be more than Andy Reid, which everybody talks about, or Bruce Arians, or whoever, you know. But this is tough. It is tough because the Bengals had a horrible, ugly game, but they pulled out the win over the Broncos there, and it's actually in Cincinnati. But I'm gonna stick with the. I don't even know if they are really the overall better offensive unit. The Bengals are nice on offense, but I'll stick with the Ravens. I like the Ravens better, I guess. So
I'll say this: Tyler Huntley is really not half bad. I think he's serviceable as a backup, maybe even a low tier starter in a pinch. Of course, he did score a lot of his value also in terms of fantasy wise in garbage time against Green Bay, but he did make it a close game, and that's really all you can ask of him going against the best record team in the NFL right now. So that was a good performance. Cincinnati looking good as well. I like Joe Burrow a lot, like where he's going. He's developing into a solid starter, and this is a playoff caliber team, I believe. Now again, with this game, huge playoff implications, division rivals, and this might be the game for the final spot. I mean, this is going to be extremely critical. And I'm going to go with the quarterback that I believe in a bit more, which is Joe Burrow, because we don't know if Lamar is going to be back or when he'll be back exactly. I'm going to go Joe Burrow, say he gets it done for the Bengals. And Baltimore is going to be in a tough spot playoff-wise, but if on the flip side, if the Bengals lose, they'll be in a tough spot. So Joe Burrow get it done in the clutch and lead the Bengals to their first playoffs in, I guess, 6 years or something. I don't know. Andy Dalton did it once.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears at the Seahawks.
I think it was 2015, by the way.
May have been, yeah.
Seahawks and Bears. Yeah, both. Well, I will say that the Seahawks are on a better trajectory at the moment. I don't know that they are a better team this year than the Bears. I mean, the Bears are horrible, and it's all due to Matt Nagy. That's obvious. And the Seahawks are coming off of a couple of wins here. This is going to be in Seattle. We don't know as of this recording what they're doing this week, but we shall see. I still think overall the Seahawks are a better, I don't know, like on paper maybe not, but logic tells you the Seahawks should win this game, so I'll stick with the Seahawks.
I'm going to go with the most likely scenario, which is that Seattle loses to the Rams. And it's probably because it's a divisional game. It's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a close loss. So the way that I'm assuming that game is going to go, I would be sitting and saying Seattle, even though Seattle and Chicago both lost. Seattle had a better performance, which again, I don't know if that's the case, but I imagine they will do better than the Bears did against Minnesota. And the momentum is with them. I'm going to take Seattle to win the game as well. And, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields do have some things in common. They're working with a roster right now that's not necessarily very good. Of course, they're not nearly the same level of experience themselves. They may experience coaching changes in the offseason. And of course, Russell Wilson may even be going to a different team. So, interesting point. There are not a lot of playoff implications on either side, but I'll take Seattle to win. Probably a close one, though. The Steelers at the Chiefs.
Yeah, well, the Chiefs are back on top. They proved last week against the Chargers that they still have it. That offensive unit is still amazing and a lot of firepower. Now, a lot of it was done in the last quarter. And I will say that Patrick Mahomes is still not back to being Patrick Mahomes. But through the last quarter and overtime in that game, they really went to work. And Travis Kelce became Travis Kelce again. If you cut the game off at halftime, though, you wouldn't have believed me saying that. But it actually happened, and Tyreek Hill went off for a couple of scores that looked great. This should be no contest, really. The Steelers are still not good. Their defense is falling apart. Their offensive line is not to be found. They don't have much of an offensive unit at this time. Big Ben is done. I don't think he comes back next year. I'm going to stick with the Chiefs at home.
Well, for the Steelers, you picked the Browns to be the worst team in their division. The
Yes.
Steelers are my one hope to win me that bet, because I took that bet. And they may actually be able to do it by half a game, by that one tie they had. They may be able to do it. So I guess in that sense, I have to kind of root against the Steelers here. So that's what I'm going to do. But also, logically speaking, I will take Kansas City. Man, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes is fun to watch, right? That's a good one for a long time. Like, that game was about whoever gets the ball last is going to win the game. And I think if the Chargers win the coin flip in overtime, I think they win the game. And that's all we can want. Like, from a Tuesday night, prime time, whatever game, these are going to be great matchups for a long time. So we're going to be seeing that highlighted a lot in the late windows in future years. I have a pretty good suspicion because that was definitely fire. But I will absolutely take the Chiefs to win this one and clinch their playoff spot as well. The Broncos at the Raiders.
I was thinking about this. With Teddy Bridgewater going out, they're bringing Drew Lock back in. I really thought about it, and obviously neither one of these guys are going to be the starting quarterback next season. I can't imagine the Broncos bringing back Teddy, but who knows. But I was thinking about this. You love to talk about super teams. And if they get a really good quarterback, say they get an Aaron Rodgers, this is a super team. This is a ready-made super team right now. They have a phenomenal defense. Well, they have a great defense. I'm not going to say phenomenal. They're not number one in the NFL, but they are up there in the top tier, or right there knocking on the door of the top tier, in my opinion. They have great wide receivers, great draft capital in those wide receivers, and they have two phenomenal running backs. Javonte Williams is a superstar of the future. Whether or not they keep Melvin Gordon or not, but he is a first-round running back talent. This team could be amazing in years to come. The Raiders, however, have lost most of everything. They did pull out a win over the Browns, but they didn't look good doing it. There was nothing to write home about. I think I'll take the Broncos to win this one on the road with Drew Lock at quarterback.
Yeah, which is, of course, you know what? That matters to me. It's so little, I can't even explain if it's Bridgewater or Drew Lock. I could not care. They're like the same person to me, more or less. Like, player-wise, I don't differentiate at all. I don't think they're necessarily like a super team like you would say like the Buccaneers are, for example, right now. But yes, adding like an elite quarterback would make them an instant contender for sure. You want to beef up the defense a little more, considering you traded Von Miller and Bradley Chubb just can't stay healthy apparently. But they do have a lot of the pieces there. I do agree with that, and a big quarterback trade in the offseason may be in the cards for them. Now, that being said, I wonder if you can guess what I'm going to pick in this game. I wonder if you can guess.
I would think you were going to pick the Broncos, but then again, if the record shows that the Raiders need to win to get to 500, you're probably picking the Raiders.
Well, the Raiders do need to get to 500. That is the case. But to get to 500 in a 17 game season, you have to have a tie in there. And guess what? This is going to be it. I'm picking a tie. Have I ever had this the whole time?
You did.
Since we've done the show?
Either last season or the season before.
I may have once picked one, and this is going to be it. So this is the best opportunity to pick a tie game. It really is, at least for the remainder of the season. This is a close one. Either one could win. Might as well pick a tie. I will negotiate with you this though. If I pick a tie and I actually get it right, do I get 2 points?
Okay, I'll give you that.
Just because it's so rare. So okay. This better happen now, because this is my chance to get back into it and to get my prediction right. So tie in overtime, no one scores. It's going to be like a 13-13. By the time they start overtime, there's no fans anymore. It's a horrible tie. We have the Washingtons at the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, well, as of this recording, we got to say that so many times today. We still don't know what Washington is going to do, and I can't really assume that the Eagles win that game at this moment. I think those teams are pretty even, as a matter of fact. The Cowboys are not looking like they should. I know they have a lot of injuries, and they can't get Amari Cooper back going after the COVID stint. But Pollard and Zeke are pretty much the high spot on that team right now, at least for the offense. They have phenomenal defense. I mean, Diggs and Parsons and Van Der Esch, those guys are on fire. So I'm going to count on that defense to shut down Washington's offense, because that offense is not great with Taylor Heineke at all. So Cowboys should take this one, especially being in Dallas.
It's a much closer one than a lot of people think. Now, here's where some gamesmanship comes into play for me, because I don't know what Washington does. And what does a smart investor do in the face of uncertainty? He becomes more safe. Like, he adjusts his strategy to be more risk averse, becomes a little bit safer. I don't know what Washington's going to come into this game looking, and Dallas is the favorite either way, so I will pick the Cowboys. Of course, if Washington were to blow out the Eagles and they smelling playoffs, then yeah, there might be a reason for them to actually be favored, riding that momentum, but we just don't know, and so we can't really rely on that. I'll take the safer pick, which is Dallas. I will reiterate, there's nothing that I want more than to play Dallas in the first round of the playoffs. I really hope the cards fall into place. I do not want Dallas to get like a freebie, get the last seed, the last wildcard spot, and play like the Saints or Washington or something in the first round. I wanted to have to play the Niners. That would be a tough outcome, but that's up to fate. I'll take them to win against Washington. And then we have lastly the Dolphins at the Saints.
Yeah. This is tough, because that defense just shut down the Bucs, which is one of the best offenses in the NFL. But I want to go with the Dolphins because Tua, he's looking great, he's looking phenomenal, and then he's looking bad at the same time. It's a mixed bag. It's almost like Fitzpatrick is still playing quarterback there. But I have faith in Tua. I do think he's going to be great. I think he gets a lot of pressure from Flores, in my opinion. And overall, maybe the Saints are just good at shutting down elite quarterbacks. And I don't think that Tua, by any means, is elite just yet. Now, I do have hopes and think that he can be elite in the future. But they should get Jalen Waddle back, and with Devontae Parker out there, he's going to have plenty options to throw to. Mike Gesicki. That's a great offense. That is one great offense. They can't seem to get anything better than a walk-on or a free unsigned free agent running back for some reason. But hey, Duke Johnson's out there, so I'm gonna go with the Dolphins here because I think that's probably a fluke that the Saints pulled off.
So, on account of Tua not being an elite quarterback, you'll be able to beat the Saints.
Yeah.
Like by the classic definition of like he's flying under the radar and he's going to win. I'll say this: Dolphins have the longest winning streak in the league. I mean, they were 1-7. They're 500 now.
Yes.
Someone's got to show they can beat them because they haven't been beaten in nearly 2 months. So can it be the Saints? I mean, not really any better momentum swing to come off than shutting out the Bucs 9-0 and going into this game. But this is a close one, and this is, by the way, only one of 4 total games that are effectively complete pick'ems. Looking at the odds, the Saints, the Patriots, Jets, and Bengals are all 3-point favorites at home. So those are all effectively pick'em games on neutral turf, and it's a very, very close weekend, and this one is as well. Since you picked the Dolphins, I'm gonna go Saints. This is closing it out, one of the ones I have to disagree with you just for the sake of disagreeing, because I'm not convinced enough to go with either of these as it looks right now. If the Saints lost, I'd pick the Dolphins, and I'm sure they'd be prohibitive favorites. Being one of the really stronger teams right now, and they're hard to stop when they're rolling, and someone has to prove they can do it. Faith in the Saints defense. If you can do it to Tampa, you can do it to Miami as well. So I'm taking the Saints. We have a lot of disagreements, but a lot of close games this week. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things can happen.
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting. But hopefully I can make up some points. What's the difference now? Is it 7 points, 8 points? It's pretty big still, right?
Yeah.
I made up one. Two are still outstanding.
Yeah, exactly. So who knows? Like, all those disagreements last week, and we could come back down to a tie when it's all said and done again.
We could, yeah. Which would be very bad for me, but we'll see. We'll see. On the topic of the MVP discussion, the poll, I will mention it again, is up on the community channel page. You can vote for your NFL MVP if the season ended today. Smokey, who's your MVP? Are you sticking with your guns of Jonathan Taylor, or are you finally going with a quarterback?
Well, no, who I would pick is Jonathan Taylor. Now, I understand that the committee's probably not going to pick Jonathan Taylor. He will probably be the offensive player of the year. It's either him or Cooper Kupp. But that's who I would pick. Now, I think it's probably, after that week right there, it had to knock Tom Brady down a little bit, right? So it comes down to, have they forgotten about the stunt that Aaron Rodgers pulled earlier in this season? Now, I'm not judging Aaron Rodgers. It's not for me to determine either way. I'm just trying to think in the minds of what the league, the NFL as a league, are thinking about that situation, and if they're going to be able to reward him with the MVP after that. So, okay, if it were me voting, I would pick Aaron Rodgers if I had to pick a quarterback. But if I didn't absolutely have to pick a quarterback, it would be Jonathan Taylor.
All right. If I had to vote and pick the correct choice, I would also go Aaron Rodgers. And by the way, he's going to have a substantial lead to win it. That is what I'm thinking. If it's like a toss-up between him and someone else, he will probably not get it because the media just doesn't like him. And it's not just that situation, it's also the fact he won it last year. And just for story-wise, it's generally the NFL tends to not want to give the MVP back-to-back to the same player. So if they can avoid it, they probably will. Now, I did sneak a peek at the MVP odds before we started recording this earlier today. And at this point, nearly all sports books have Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers on equal odds after this weekend. Tom Brady had a big lead going into last weekend. Of course, played the worst game of his season, maybe of the last decade. And Aaron Rodgers played very well, as he tends to do, and won the game. So they are completely even to most bookmakers, which should tell you that Aaron Rodgers probably is quite a lot better. But bookmakers tend to factor realistic circumstances in. So they know that, Aaron Rodgers is going to have to be clearly better than everyone else if he's going to win. Now, all of that putting aside, I don't like being a realist, and I like sticking with my bets, so I'm picking Justin Herbert again. Who cares? I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. He's probably the least likely out of those three to win it, but I think for most people it's down to those three names now. For Herbert, again, whether he will have a shot by the time voting comes around depends a lot on the team situation, because they lost against the Chiefs, might as well have won, and it was no fault of his own. He played an excellent game, one interception that was tipped, and he never got to touch the ball in overtime. So that's not his fault. I think if they win, he'd be looking a bit better, unfortunately. But they're going to have to win. They keep winning. They're going to do that this week, I have faith. And they're going to have to make the playoffs for him to be in that conversation when voting comes around. If he's not, it's down to Brady and Rodgers. And then it's the last 2 weeks will tell that tale. So it's very close there. But I'm sticking Justin Herbert. Also because I just like Justin Herbert. He's pretty good. And I like the fact that I was right about him. So I'm going to mention that every time.
Hey, that's why I pushed for Josh Allen so hard last year.
Yeah, I know. That's true. And Josh Allen could have won it last year. He was second last year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that may be Herbert this year.
Maybe, yeah. I think he'll probably be third because it'll be Brady and Rodgers. Will be in the 1 and 2, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm going with Justin Herbert. I like him, man. He's good. Do you have any fantasy news? I know there's not that much to cover anymore because it's right now it's just do or die. It's late into the fantasy playoffs as well. But do you have anything to say about the hurry up offense?
No, it's just news. I mean, that's all there is at this point. There's not a lot of game theory out there that's going to help you right now because you're either in the championship round or you're not at this point. So
what you should do is you should teach ordinary, like average fantasy players like me the magic of picking up like a backup quarterback off the waiver wire for your playoffs, and he scores what, 39 points?
Yes, number one, I did that. In my dynasty league, I only had Lamar and Trevor Lawrence that's actually playing right now. So it was Trevor Lawrence or bust at that point once they called Lamar out for the week. So I was like, well, let me look. Let's just see if Taylor Heineke's on the waiver wire. I saw him sitting there. It was only him and who's your boy from the Niners that's over
Nick Mullins.
Nick Mullins, yeah. So it was just Nick Mullins and Tyler Heineke sitting on the waiver wire. And I was like...
Tyler Huntley, by the way.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley. But so I was like, I'm gonna pick him up. I'm gonna try it, see what happens. And I couldn't push the button for Trevor Lawrence. It was too hard. So and it worked. Number one quarterback on the week. Like all the league mates think that I'm doing some kind of weird magic or curses or something. But hey.
I really hate that worked for you. I would have hoped so much that Trevor Lawrence was just going to win you that week, but man.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's big plays. That's plays I can't make. Well, not in the playoffs anyway, but I guess you can't really teach that, huh?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's gut instincts at that point, you know.
Yeah. He did have a good game. I'll give you that. He did look serviceable. I do recognize that.
I mean, it could have backfired. It easily could have backfired, but
yeah, for sure. A high risk pickup.
Yeah,
but you got to take risks, I guess, if you want to win
in
your league. So tune into the hurry up offense anyway for some of the news. It's crunch time in fantasy playoffs for sure. So you want to make absolutely sure you're not missing anything. Coming up just after this video in a couple hours, ready for Thursday night kickoff, so you can get your lineup set. If you are still competing, make sure you are in the best position you can possibly be. Let us know your predictions, your picks for this week. Who do you have winning? Who do you got losing? What do you vehemently disagree with? And also your MVP you're voting for. Let us know on the channel page. The poll is up. You can leave your vote. And if you pick someone else other than the listed people, by now, probably not that many anymore. But if you do, you can leave a comment, tell us why. I think some people are going to come like very late and argue for Carson Wentz down the stretch. I just have that feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we'll see. We'll see where we go there. So thank you for watching. Drop us a like and let us know your picks in the comments. And we're going to see you in the next one.
Doses.
Check the scoreboard. Check.